70's Real, Episode 15, Trouble. Conrad looked at Jack. What is up with this city? He shook his head and started opening his door. There is always something crazy going on. Jack smiled at Conrad and watched him get out before opening his own door. He was lucky to have a partner like him. Jack got out and followed Conrad over to a small group of people that were standing in a semicircle at the front of the parking lot, near Happy's entrance. "What's going on here?" Jack asked as he approached the group. He took out his badge and flashed it. Several people turned and looked at Jack and Conrad and stepped to the side when they saw Jack's badge. There was a brown-haired woman who had a man pinned down on the ground. Her knee was on his lower back. She had both of his arms pinned to his back at the wrist in a judo hold with her left hand. The 32-year-old Puerto Rican descent woman had long, wavy hair, medium brown skin, and brown eyes. She had a cigarette loosely hanging out of her mouth. Jack cleared his throat. The woman looked up at him. Jack showed her his badge and asked, "What's going on?" The woman took her cigarette out of her mouth with her right hand and snuffed it out on the ground before she answered. "The guy tried to rob me," the woman said calmly. "Were there any witnesses?" Jack asked, not quite sure if he could believe the woman. She squinted her eyes at Jack and gave him a look. "Well, we are cops and we are here now, so we will take over for you," Conrad said politely. The brown-haired woman looked at Conrad and gave him an indignant look. She reached her right hand in her brown and tan plaid coat pocket and took out a dark brown wallet and flipped it open. "I'm a cop," she said in a rough manner. Jack got a smirk on his face. He touched his hand to his ear. Before he could say anything, a squad car pulled up and 2 officers got out. They looked at Jack and Conrad. "What's going on?" the green-eyed, sandy brown-haired, 30-year-old officer named Bill Reed asked. Jack looked at Bill and said, "Attempted robbery." Bill nodded at Jack and then walked over to the brown-haired woman and looked down at the man. The 37-year-old, dark-haired, brown-eyed officer named Brian Greenway walked over to Jack and looked at the brown-haired woman and the man on the ground. "Which one was doing the robbing?" Brian asked as a joke. Jack gave out a soft snort and answered, "He said the guy." The brown-haired woman stood up and showed Bill her badge and then let him take over. "I will need a statement from you," Bill said. The brown-haired woman nodded. Bill handcuffed the suspect, patted him down, and then took him over to the squad car and put him in the back seat. The brown-haired woman walked over to Jack and Conrad and looked at them. She honed in on Jack and looked at him intently. "You didn't believe me, did you?" she asked. Jack looked at her and gave her an amused look. "We meet all kinds," he said. Conrad looked at the brown-haired woman and asked, "What precinct are you from?" The brown-haired woman shook her head and said, "I don't work around here yet. I was working in South City until a few months ago. I came here to apply for a job." She held out her hand to Conrad. "I'm Detective Nancy Diaz." Conrad shook her hand and said, "Detective Conrad Diggs." Conrad pointed at Jack and said, "This is my partner, Detective Jack Foreman." Jack held out his hand to Nancy. He quickly let go of Conrad's hand and shook Jack's hand. "So what brought you guys to Happy's?" Nancy asked. "Dinner," Jack said as he patted his stomach. "Terrific. I would join you too. I was on my way in to get something to eat when that guy grabbed me," Nancy said with a smile. Jack's smile quickly changed to a frown.